Opening the center immediately claims central space and prepares piece development. Developing the knight to its most active square immediately prepares central control and potential threats. Asserting central influence, this pawn advance opens avenues for further piece development and challenges black's nascent knight. Opening the path for the queen and bishop, this solidifies black's central presence while anticipating a flexible kingside development. Developing the knight here enhances piece coordination and prepares for pawn advances that will sculpt the center's landscape. Developing a piece to provoke a reaction, this bishop creates immediate tension on the c3 knight. Solidifying the center and preparing development, white aims for a tranquil setup while keeping options open for pawn breaks. Probing the center immediately, black seeks to disrupt white's pawn structure and challenge for space on the queen side. Fortifying the center while preparing to castle, this bishop also eyes the weakened kingside diagonal. Developing the knight here reinforces black's central pawn structure and prepares to challenge white's imposing pawn on d4. Nurturing piece development, white seeks to unburden the queen side, anticipating a potential castling sequence. Opening the center now offers black counterplay, potentially relieving pressure on the queen side. Releasing central tension now opens lines for your bishops and queen to become active players. Challenging central control by opening the position, immediately creating complex pawn dynamics. Opening the center this way grants excellent piece activity. Unleashing the queen here, black initiates a dynamic central pawn exchange, seeking active piece play and counterplay against white's somewhat passive setup. Securing the king initiates a safer middle game, preparing for future queenside expansion. Relinquishing the central queen outpost signals a positional concession, aiming to simplify into a more manageable structure for black. Developing the bishop here neatly reinforces the central tension while preparing to potentially castle kingside, aiming for a harmonious setup. Developing the bishop here frees the kingside and prepares for castling, solidifying black's position. Securing the queen's escape square preemptively prevents tactical traps, while also preparing for future queenside expansion. Solidifying the queenside pawn structure, preparing a potential b5 to gain space on that wing. This maneuver seeks to connect the rooks and prepare for pawn breaks on the queenside. Expanding on the queenside, black seeks to gain space and potentially develop a potent rook on the b-file. Repositioning the rook to the d-file solidifies central control and prepares for potential pawn advances or exchanges, aiming to exploit black's somewhat cramped queenside. Solidifying the bishop's defensive role while preparing for potential queenside expansion presents a prudent choice here. Sharpening the kingside attack, this queen transfer eyes the weakened f7 square, preparing for a potential pawn storm or direct assault. Developing the bishop to d6 solidifies black's central pawn structure and eyes the kingside. Unveiling the queen from its protective pawn shield, white seeks to exploit the open d-file and pressure the kingside, though it risks leaving the monarch exposed. Reorganizing the knight's position, this square offers better defensive coverage and prepares for future central advances. Developing the bishop here directly challenges black's queen's retreat, aiming to seize initiative and perhaps create pressure on the kingside. Recognizing the threat to the queen, black bravely repositions it, preparing to fortify the kingside and challenge white's central influence. Sacrificing bishop offers a clear diagonal for the queen, potentially unbalancing the pawn structure and creating downstream weaknesses. Breaking open the kingside with gxf6 sacrifices pawn structure for attacking potential, but simultaneously exposes the monarch. Opening the b-file for potential infiltration, this bishop reassesses its defensive duties and prepares to join the kingside attack. Challenging white's pawn structure opens lines but weakens the king's cover, a double-edged sword. Seizing the bishop pair offers a potent positional advantage, opening lines for attacking pressure. Reclaiming the pawn, the queen now occupies a vital central square, enhancing its influence over the kingside and eyeing the vulnerable white pawn structure. Initiating a central pawn thrust, white aims to disrupt black's pawn structure and seize space, potentially opening lines for attacking pieces. Embracing chaos, black opens a dangerous path for their monarch, sacrificing pawn structure for dynamic counterplay along the open files. Cracking open the kingside, white exploits the exposed black monarch and creates an unstoppable passed pawn threat. Opening the f-file for your rook and activating the king's pawn structure offers counterplay despite the doubled pawns. A tactical gambit emerges, sacrificing material to rip open the black king's defenses and seize control of the d-file. This move seeks to activate the queen on an open file, though it exposes it to potential checks. Securing the open c-file with this rook, white immediately pressures black's doubled pawns and prepares for potential breakthroughs. Securing the king from the rampant open files is a prudent defensive maneuver. Shifting queen offers flexibility for future operations on the king side. Initiating a dangerous pawn storm on the king side, black aims to create attacking chances against white's exposed monarch. Striking at the e6 pawn creates immediate tension and forces black to reassess their king's safety. Preserving the queen on the queen side, this maneuver offers some protection while preparing for future action. Consolidating the pawn mass on the king side might offer some breathing room for white's pieces. The rook slides to the 7th rank, a bold assertion of influence and potential flanking action. Securing the c-file now sets the stage for pressure against black's queenside weaknesses. Unleashing a pawn storm towards the enemy king, but potentially weakening your own structure. Unleashing an immediate attack on black's exposed king by seizing the crucial e4 square. Rerouting the knight to c8 aims to bolster kingside defense and potentially support a pawn push on the queen side, but sacrifices the initiative. Suddenly, a tactical opportunity to disrupt black's king safety by sacrificing the knight emerges. Gambling on a desperate counterattack on the king side, this move sacrifices material for initiative, hoping to exploit white's somewhat exposed monarch. Sacrificing the queen to simplify into a favorable pawn-heavy endgame eliminates black's attacking potential. King's safety is now paramount for black, as the queens are gone and the center has opened up invitingly for white's pieces. A bold knight foray to bolster central control and pressure the weakened kingside structure. Creating a defensive wall against the encroaching knight, this move aims to free the king's breathing room. Suddenly, the knight vacates its post, creating potential for a powerful central push and targeting weaknesses around black's king. Repositioning the bishop to a more active square, aiming to pressure white's compromised queenside pawn structure. Asserting control over the central squares, this move prepares to challenge black's active pieces and potentially open lines. Re-establishing the bishop on its diagonal offers some counterplay against white's doubled pawns. This knight's daring leap aims to disrupt black's pawn structure and create attacking chances. Challenging the knight's dominant central square now offers a glimmer of activity. Initiating a powerful discovered attack, this forcing sequence aims to dismantle black's defenses and exploit the exposed monarch. Sacrificing the rook simplifies to a potentially losing endgame where black's exposed king is a major liability. Liberating the knight from pawn protection opens aggressive lines towards black's exposed king. A logical retreat to redeploy the knight to a more active square, aiming to disrupt white's central control and potentially create counterplay on the king side. Sharpening the attack, this check exploits the pinned knight and aims to disrupt black's defenses. Aggressively seeking to expose the enemy king, the black monarch now finds itself in a precarious position on the queen side. A decisive exchange that simplifies into a winning endgame for white, leveraging the isolated d-pawn and better king activity. Unveiling the bishop to potentially disrupt white's central control and open avenues for counterplay.